Hey guys, and welcome back to another IronWill podcast with me, Shane Warner, and
Jon Chase.
So what this podcast is all about is we are trying to get stories from people that have been through a traumatic experience in their lives and came out a different person.
Yeah, they have all created an iron will. So what is an iron will? A burning determination that cannot be stopped or hindered by anything, willing to do anything to get a desired outcome, extremely resilient. So what we like to say is just keep punching.
Yeah. So each time we interview a person on this IronWill podcast, that's the types of things that we're looking to get out of them is
we want to make sure that we understand their story, what they've gone through, because people have gone through a lot of hard things, right? We want to know what they've gone through, how they've overcome it, and then what they're doing now to give back.
And if you or anyone you know has a story that they would like to share on the podcast, my email address is shawarn@gmail.com. And you can send me an email and we'll get that person on the podcast.
Right on.
So sit back and relax, and we're going to start the show. Our guest today is named Matthew Möyer, and I'm just going to have him kind of introduce himself. And so here he is.
Hey, folks. My name is Matthew Möyer. I am currently living in southern Arizona by way of Pennsylvania. I live out here with my family. Did some time in the military, and now I'm out here doing some things with fitness.
Awesome. So it's pretty hot down there then, hey?
The heat's kicking on.
Oh, yeah.
I bet. So,
Cool.
Where did you grow up?
So I grew up in Lancaster, Pennsylvania.
Ooh, that's quite a difference, huh?
Yeah. Farm fields and humidity to desert and no humidity.
Yeah. So did you go in enlisted, or you said you went to college, so that's why?
I hadn't finished college, so I just went in as an enlisted guy.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And what expectations did you have when you joined?
I don't know that I really had any expectations. I mean, I wasn't like now there's videos and stuff everywhere of what things are like, and on. Back then, my expectations were kind of Full Metal Jacket. That was kind of what we had for the Marine Corps between that and Heartbreak Ridge. So I didn't really have like, oh, it's going to be like this is what's going to happen or anything. It's kind of nice now talking with kids that are going in, like they kind of have like their first 4 years completely mapped out of what they want to do, where they plan to go, and all this kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like,
right.
I don't know. I didn't know what an MOS was or anything like that. I'm like, I just want to join the Marine Corps.
Tell us about that experience. What kind of life lessons did you learn in the Marines?
I think for me it was a huge confidence.
Okay.
We have. I think we're all capable of way more than we give ourselves credit for. And it's not really until we're in situations where we don't have a choice that you really see what those limits are, and what we thought our limits are, kind of just the beginning of what we were capable of. And I think like not just in boot camp, but through my entire, because I was in for 6 years, I extended to go to Afghanistan and re-enlisted over there, and that's where I got injured. I think through all that, it was just kind of, looking back on it, there's certain things some days I'm having a lazy day and I'm like, man, I did those things.
Yeah.
It's kind of wow.
So can you go back to a little bit of boot camp and tell me what Marine boot camp was like? I've always had an interest in becoming a Marine. I joined the National Guard and I wanted to join the Marines. So can you tell me a little bit about what boot camp was like?
It seems like organized chaos.
Yeah.
And I know I have friends that went on to become drill instructors, and, talking to them, it's anything but chaos. I mean, it's meticulously planned out. But it's, and I think that's part of the whole thing is just you really, they want it to be chaos for you. So you have no way to really get your bearings on what you have to do, especially because they have it divided into 3 phases. And that first phase is just, that complete, that mind, the mind games and just screaming and yelling. You can't do anything right. You could do everything perfect to the T. I was talking to a buddy the other day, and for some reason we were talking about, we do like the initial drill evaluation where you're marching and stuff. And I was like, it's funny because no matter what you do, they have you convinced that you were the worst platoon to ever do this in the history of the Marine Corps, and you believe it.
Yeah,
and that's their excuse to destroy everything in the barracks for you to clean up. But it just pushes you to, man, I thought we did kind of good, but we're that bad.
Yeah.
I need to try harder. And so it's kind of like a psychological game to get you to put out more. I really started to see that because when I was on the tail end of first phase in boot camp, I had gotten pneumonia and ended up, I think it was like 7 days I was in the hospital getting recovered.
Wow.
And then when I came back, I got rolled back to training day 2. So I had to start all over.
Wow.
So it sucked being on the 4-month program there, but coming back and seeing, it's like I've already done this. So now you can kind of know the game and can kind of sit back and
was it easier,
and enjoy the show, so to speak.
Was it easier your second time going through it, or was it like a mental game and kind of harder?
For me, it was, going into 24, I already had, a bit of maturity. I'm not going to say I was mature because I certainly wasn't.
More mature than an 18-year-old, though.
Yeah. I had a house at the time when I went in. I had responsibilities. I kind of seen a little bit outside of high school.
Sure.
I had a little bit of maturity going for me, and I think it helped out a lot. And I tell a lot of kids now that if they have the ability, when they don't go in right after high school, take a year and, because you can enlist and say, hey, I want to leave in a year. You can do a delayed entry program thing and go work a little bit, even if it's a part-time job. Plus, that'll give you time to get physically in shape. The amount of kids that are sitting there like, okay, I shipped out in a month. How do I get physically ready? It's like, you can't.
You can't.
No way. You should be taking the last month to be like, okay, I'm just going to enjoy this time.
Yeah.
But then that gives you a year of, I'll say, real world experience, of, hey, I have to go do this job. I have to go do these things. I have to pay these bills. And it gives you a little bit of a leg up when you go to boot camp instead of going from, man, I got to get this homework assignment into why is this dude yelling at me to make my bed? And I thought it was good and it's not. I think it would help out a lot of kids going in like a year after.
They got to start creating some disciplines and everything beforehand. Yeah.
Right. For sure.
So can you tell me about how many times did you deploy?
So I had 3 deployments.
In 6 years?
I deployed twice. I deployed twice to Iraq. Both of those were 7 months, and then I did a year in Afghanistan. You
told me on Messenger that you were in Ramadi. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
It was the best, worst times I ever had.
I'm sure, yeah.
So that was my first deployment. So I got done with boot camp, went through job school, my MOS school. So I was in the Marine Corps as a 0861 as fire support man.
Okay.
So calling in artillery, mortars.
What year was this that you?
So I went into boot camp 2005, and I hit the fleet. I hit my first unit December 13th of 2005.
Okay.
And then February of 2006, I was wheels up on my first deployment.
That's
so
quick.
Like I got there and I was like, hey, we're doing this, and then it's Christmas break, and get your stuff together. We're going. So we got to Habbaniyah. We worked in 4-man teams at my first unit, and we were in Habbaniyah for a little bit, and for about a month or so, and then we chopped over to Ramadi because it was just crazy hectic over there. And it was weird because Habbaniyah was you think of Iraq as just like this desert everywhere, and Habanillo was right on the river, and it's just farmland everywhere. So you just jumping through irrigation ditches and whatnot. And then we go over to Ramadi, that's just a super dense city.
And it was more like what you expected.
Yeah, so it's interesting because again, now we have like YouTube and all these things where we see all these war videos. And at the time, I think everybody was like super familiar with like the 2004 Fallujah videos.
Yeah,
is what everybody knew at that time, and that was kind of what it was like. And it was really weird because being my first deployment, it's just okay. This is how it is. This is what a deployment's like. And then my 2 deployments after that, it was like the complete opposite, like nothing going on. So it's you kind of have this super high expectation now, and everything just sucks in comparison to that.
So tell us about your injury. When did that happen? Is that the third deployment?
Yeah, so that was my third deployment. I extended to go to Afghanistan so I could re-enlist over there and get my bonus tax-free. You got to play the game. So we get over there April of 2009. So we get to Afghanistan, and then September of 2009, I re-enlisted over there. And then November 2009 is when I got injured, and I had been put on the sergeant of the guard duty. So they have guard posts around the base, and you just have to post them relief, make sure they get food, and, keep an eye on everything, base security, basically. So no bad guys are trying to sneak on base. So we're doing that, and we go out. We're me and my driver riding around in a 7-ton, and we get back, and my pack was in the back of the 7-ton, and I reached up to grab it. I was caught on something. So I just climbed up the ladder to get it and reached down and just pulled with everything I had, just went straight out the back of the 7-ton and landed flat on my back.
And did you think anything of it at that point, or did you not know how serious it was?
I had no idea how serious it was. So I had, when I hit, like when you hit your funny bone, you get the pins and needles.
Yeah.
Like I got that through my whole body, and I was just like, and and my driver's like, "Oh my goodness, are you okay?" And I'm just laying there. I'm like, "Yeah, just give me a minute." And I start wiggling my fingers, I'm like, "All right, I can wiggle everything. I must be fine." So I just got up and didn't really think anything of it. And then, as time went on, I'm starting to notice like I'm starting to trip and not quite
just
moving
getting
right.
worse and worse.
Yeah, and it's
and from something that simple like that, you wouldn't ever think that it was that serious.
Well, how high up is? I mean, like I don't even know what that vehicle looks like. I'm not military, but like
it's probably close to like a 7-foot fall.
Okay, that's what I was envisioning. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like 7 or 8 feet, I think, around there. Yeah, and I mean, I had all my gear on. I had on my helmet. I had on, my flak, everything. So, but yeah, it's just kind of one of those where it knocks the wind out of you, and you're just like, oh man, that sucked. Yeah. And then you get up, and then like as the days are going on, it's like I'm tripping over things. I'm like, things just aren't working right. And you're on a deployment. You don't want to be the guy that goes and says, "Hey, my back hurts."
Yeah.
Right.
And it's like, I'm a sergeant at the time, so it's like I'm trying to set the example, and
right.
I'm a Marine. I'm just going to suck it up. So that was November. We finished up that deployment in April, and we did they call it a post-deployment health assessment, where you go and meet with the medical officer. He goes over everything, make sure nothing's wrong. And so I tell him about what happened, and I said, things just aren't right. And he's like, "What do you mean they aren't right?"
So you had a feeling then that
I was like, I told him, and I'm
wrong.
like something, and really it was because my legs, like I could walk, but I felt like I had no control over my legs whatsoever.
Your motor control was gone. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's like, "Well, what do you mean?" I was like, "I just feel like I got like 2 golden lab puppies strapped to my feet. They're just like doing whatever they want,
Yeah.
And he's just looking at me like I'm crazy. And so he's doing like a couple tests, and they have these really simple tests that they can do. And he's like looking at me. He's like, "When did this happen?" I was like, I told him back in November. He's like, and he's doing a couple more tests. He's like, you'd have told me then, we probably would have evacuated you to Germany.
Yeah.
So when we get back,